I'm a clan baby. Goo goo gaga. Hello, everybody, and welcome to What the Hell Should I Watch? I'm Steve Stebbing.
And I'm Chloe Stebbing.
And we are the show of what we're watching, which may become what you're watching. And we come at you every Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific time, right here on stevestebbing.ca. And last week, I was a little torn between which thriller I wanted to check out.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say torn. I would just say that there's two options.
Okay.
And one definitely wins out above the other one, but it's fresh for your eyeballs. Yes, and this week the choice that I made was Zoe Kravitz, Blink Twice.
When tech billionaire Slater King meets cocktail waitress Frida at his fundraising gala, he invites her to join him and his friends on a dream vacation on his private island. As strange things start to happen, Frida questions her reality. Starring Naomi Ackie, Channing Tatum, Christian Slater, Simon Rex, Adria Arjona, Kyle MacLachlan, Haley Joel Osment, Gina Davis, and Alia Shawkat. Written and directed by Zoe Kravitz.
In her debut, as I said at the top, and she has a future behind the camera if she doesn't want to do the in front of the camera stuff anymore. Because reading Channing Tatum's post today on Instagram, he did she put her heart and soul into this film, and with him beside her the whole time doing this, because they initially met over this script.
Okay.
And now they're engaged. The whole process has been 4 years, I want to say. And not only is it an amazing debut for her, but as far as his performances go across his career right now, she I think got the best part of his acting resume so far. At least in the third act of this film, there is stuff in his performance, like nuance in his performance, that I've never seen out of Channing Tatum before. And I know that the guy is talented and ambitious and aggressively ambitious about that as well. So if something is not working out, he's going to make it work out, type thing. But I think Blink Twice, besides being a really well written story and beautifully shot and everything, is just lends to the collaborative effort between the two of them, because they're both at the top of their game. Naomi Ackie, the real lead of this film, she's really good. I've seen her in a few other things, but nothing that really blew me away. But she's great in this movie. And Ariana Arjona, who was just in Hitman with Glenn Powell recently, she's fantastic in this. And there's once they start figuring out what's going on, there's a scene between Aki and Arjona in it that has so much great subtext to it, and also some really big slap in your face moments that I think are really, really great. I said last week that I expected gender politics to be at play in this one, and there definitely were a lot of gender politics. And probably one of my favorite films of the year right now. And I know I keep saying that about a lot of movies, but it's just going to make my end of the year weed out of everything that much tougher. But this is a really great one that really can't be ignored when it comes to any top 10s at the end of the year. And probably this is my favorite title card of this year. I don't know how much you know about this film or how much interest you have in this one, but I think you would dig it.
I have mild interest. Yeah, I mean, I like Channing Tatum.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I like what it's about. Is it Epstein related or is it just
It kind of
okay?
it's very Epstein coded.
Okay.
Channing Tatum's name in the movie is Slater King. Isn't that just such an absolutely a
Sleazeball
douche
name.
with way too much money? Yeah,
Yeah.
doesn't it just exude that kind of presence right away? And the twist is great, and The excessiveness of it all, like how they lose track of what day is what anymore, and it's just all blends into the next. That's really interesting too. The just how disorienting it can be, the excessiveness, the partiness, the no responsibility, the your clothes are laid out for you, like all that kind of stuff is it's a fascinating film for sure. And definitely coming at a right time, I would say. So let's move into something that both Chloe and I have watched, and this is new A24. This is The Front Room.
It tells the story of a newly pregnant couple who are forced to take in an ailing, estranged stepmother, starring Brandy, Andrew Burnap, Neil Huff, and Katherine Hunter. Written and directed by Max Eggers and Sam Eggers.
And right up at the top, I have written and directed by Max and Sam Eggers. They are the brothers of Robert Eggers, who did The Witch, The Lighthouse, The Northman, upcoming Nosferatu. So it's a talented A24 affiliated family. So this is their debut. I would say if you've seen a trailer for this movie, I felt like it missells the movie and makes it more. The trailer makes it more comedic than I think the film meant it to come off, because it is a ridiculous premise, but it's almost approached with that folk horror lens to it. Like it doesn't look like a conventional horror film. The film is Brandy's movie. It's Belinda's story, but Catherine Hunter as Solange steals this film. Any scene she's in, no matter how gross it is, she steals that scene. And I mean, there's a scene at the dinner table where she basically where Belinda accuses her of being a clan. Well, she basically calls out her own lineage of being the descendant of a grand dragon,
Mhm.
leading to Solange putting a napkin on her head and parading like she's a Klansman, which is just an insane scene. I don't know. I watched this with my wife Jen, and we had kind of like a fun time with this movie in how campy and over the top it can be. Um, and like it's definitely heightened horror, and it's definitely playing out really ridiculous a lot, and in the end, doesn't really stick a lane of which it is this religious supernatural horror, or is this just a straightforward story of generational living going horribly wrong? Like,
Right.
what? It doesn't say, oh, like Solange had these powers and has this ability to commune with God through tongues and everything, because very much she can. They establish that in the movie and even have like healing properties and stuff. But then even in the end, it still tries to come off a little bit straightforward. So I think in struggling to find a lane, that's the flaws for me. I know just in our talk before the recording that you did not like this movie.
I didn't like this movie. I was under the sole impression that it was a thriller, pseudo horror type thing. So when they start throwing fart jokes at me, I'm like, "The fuck is going on?" Like in the middle of like a racist argument. Fart joke. Huh? And I mean, I've talked about this on the show before, how I'm pretty tired of the religion bad sentiment in horror films, and this one just takes it to the nth degree. Like, and I wasn't a fan of that. I saw some of the pre-reviews on Letterboxd, which I don't think people are supposed to be doing yet. Some of them were saying how it felt like it was kind of like a confirmation bias movie where it's like old white people are the devil every time, all the time. And that was a little frustrating for me. And I watched it with my partner and we came to the same consensus on this, that it was just like kind of preachy about how old people are bad and deserve to be tortured for some reason. How religion is bad. And all the thrills and spooks and all that, I felt kind of heavily relied on exaggeration or misrepresentation. Like
Right.
for the C-section scene, they're like pulling her intestines out of her body like it's a rope. And then we see the scar and it's all like jagged and goes like up to her belly button. I've had 2 C-sections. One of them an emergency. That is not how C-sections go in the 21st century.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Like I had a lot of nitpicky things with this movie. They completely make false claims about the origins of the Christian fish. Um about how it's from like a, an ancient goddess, and the origin of the fish
Mhm.
is from the Roman Empire. So it's not like modern day Christians were like, oh, we're going to take this cool symbol from this ancient religion because we feel like it. So I don't know. It was just, there were super nitpicky things that I was like, no, wrong. That's wrong. That's just not correct. And that took me out of it.
You said like near the beginning of you being on the show, you said that you get very nitpicky when it comes to horror, when you get very kind of possessive of it and everything. So that's well within your right. And this is really good actually for the show because we come to a movie where I enjoyed it, you did not.
Yeah.
So it's like we finally come to a separation of like, no, we don't like everything the same or dislike everything the same.
Yeah. I think that means that when we come to an agreement on if something is good or something is bad, it truly is good or bad.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, the barometer is truly met in one direction or another. All right, so that is the two that you can catch in theaters right now. But what can you watch in your Blu-ray player? I got something for you this week. That's right. On the blue this week, I bring a Criterion pick almost like weekly at this point, but instead, I'm digging through my Shout Select collection. Yeah, another numbered collection that I'm obsessed with, and out of that, I picked a '90s classic. It's Get Shorty.
A mobster travels to Hollywood to collect a debt and discovers that the movie business is much the same as his current job. Starring John Travolta, Gene Hackman, Rene Russo, and Danny DeVito. Directed by Barry Sonnenfeld. Feld.
And Barry Sonnenfeld is like he's the Adams Family guy. He's Men in Black. Barry Sonnenfeld really is kind of like a franchise dude. So he makes this movie with Travolta right after Pulp Fiction. So this isn't like peak Travolta hotness. And it really is a peak Travolta movie because Chili Palmer is like this mob enforcer guy that wants to make his way to Hollywood. But with him comes all the trappings of where he's coming from. And so all these other mobsters and bad guys follow him, but they also fall in love with Hollywood in some shape or form. So really, this is about people falling in love with Hollywood and falling in love with the potential fame and making movies and that kind of stuff. So it really is this really interesting um Hollywood film like at its center. And I really like I said, I like Travolta in this one. Rene Russo is great. This is also peak Rene Russo time. Gene Hackman is doing just such stuff that is like almost like his wheelhouse entirely. This character is exactly the type of character you would expect him to play. And Danny DeVito, like you gotta love Danny DeVito. And I feel the film has aged really well. Has a great supporting cast around them, including Delroy Lindo, James Gandolfini, like way before Tony Soprano. And yeah, I dug it. It's been such a long time since I've seen the movie, and I still think it plays really, really, really well. So it's a shout select. It's in the first 100 of that collection. And I know it's not your type of movie at all. It's like a '90s tough guy comedy,
Yeah.
really. So I don't think it's something you'd be interested in. But I think the Blu-ray is worth worth picking out for collectors out there for sure. Well, let's see what you can stream into your homes. All right, the streaming pile this week, the top one, Chloe might have watched as well because any new horror you might have checked out. It's Lee Daniels' new movie, and to me, the guy's only made one great movie. This is The Deliverance.
An Indiana family discovers strange demonic occurrences that convince them and their community that the house is a portal to hell. Starring Andra Day, Glenn Close, Anjanou Ellis Taylor, and Monique. Directed by Lee Daniels, available on Netflix.
And if I'm being honest, Lee Daniels is a filmmaker that really hasn't got me since Precious, this push story by Sapphire with Gabrielle Sidibe, which is a phenomenal film
100%.
and so well done, and hits you right like an arrow to the heart every time. It's just such a brutal true story. But I don't think he's ever kind of made a film that is that important. Again, he did The Butler, he did The Paperboy, which is a massively panned movie with Zac Efron and Nicole Kidman. But I still keep giving the chances because he always grabs a good cast. And Audra Day is really good in this movie. She's an absolute force. She's playing the mother of three kids that move into this house in Indiana that has a hole in the floor that is a portal to hell, probably, because of course it is, right? But she is a hard living woman that is very new into her sobriety. She was very abusive when she was a drunk, so the kids already don't trust her. And there's a scene where the kids go outside and get immediately bullied by the neighbors by the next door kids. So Audra Day comes out and hoofs one kid right in the nuts, like just walks up and just boots the kid. I was like, holy shit, like this, because this movie is always teetering on really interesting and really ridiculous. But as the horror and as the possession style horror of this movie starts to open up, it starts to fall onto that ridiculous side a lot more. Glenn Close's character, she's Audra Day's mother in this, so mixed race child, plays a very black coded character, like definitely, because she even has a relationship with Omar Epps, who is like her cancer nurse and
Okay.
everything. Like she's part of the community, right? An unblinking part of the community, which the internet's having a real problem right now, especially with one line that she says in it, and it's a crazy line. I don't even want to repeat it on this podcast. It's just crazy. But I her choices recently, I'm like, what is going on? This Hillbilly Elegy, a few other things, is like, what is going on? But it also has Caleb McLaughlin from Stranger Things plays the oldest kid. I haven't really seen him in a lot besides Stranger Things. And Anjanou Ellis is in this. I really, really, really like her. I've liked her as an actress for a long time. She was in Lovecraft County. She was in that King Richard movie, the Serena and Venus Williams movie with Will Smith, and she was really good in that. I enjoy her a lot, and they give her just crap to work with in this movie. Some of the exposition lines that she gives, I was just like, ooh, this is rough. I honestly, there's stuff that's entertaining about this movie, and there's stuff that's really not. So I'm kind of in the middle of the road in this one. I don't really think it's good enough to recommend, but there's some stuff in it that is just like, that was a real choice. So if you're curious, I would say watch this one. Let's move on to another big movie. This movie I've been waiting for a while. It's a new actioner. It's called Rebel Ridge.
An ex Marine grapples his way through a web of small town corruption when an attempt to post bail for his cousin escalates into a violent standoff with the local police chief. Starring Aaron Pierre, Don Johnson, Anna Sophia Robb, David Denman, Emery Cohen, Steve Zissis, Zane G, Dana Lee, and James Cromwell. Written and directed by Jeremy Saulnier, available on Netflix.
Jeremy Saulnier is a director. I've loved everything I've seen by him. He did Blue Ruin, which is a movie I felt like I almost stumbled upon. And he did one of my favorite films of his is one that I experienced at the Vancouver International Film Festival, and it was Green Room with Anton Yelchin and Patrick Stewart.
Patrick Stewart
And
for some reason.
oh, what a wild movie that movie is!
Yeah.
That is, I saw that at the SFU Woodward building, and it's like a classroom setting.
Okay.
Like it's like there's like desks, like it even has like if you wanted to take notes during the movie, you could just flip a thing over and write on it.
Okay.
So, but I was gripping that wooden piece for some of that movie, like, holy shit, what's going on in this movie? Because it's so massively unpredictable. But I love the way that Saulnier tells his stories. And it feel like it's been a bit since the Jeffrey Wright movie he did. And now we get this one, which is Aaron Pierre. You would know him as Midsize Sedan in Old.
Okay.
He's
Yep.
he's the rapper. I've never really seen him that gave him a lot of movement as far as acting goes. I can't gauge him on an M Night movie because M Night scripts are terrible, and I can't gauge how good of an actor you are with that. But he's really, really good in this one. Has a lot of really great dialogue because this is at its core a thinking man's action film. There's a real slow burn nature to this one, and it really earns its big action pieces when they actually happen. And so I think the film is largely on his shoulders with a bit on Anna Sophia Robb's character, who has a lot of depth to her as well. A big part of it being that she's a former addict as well, that is like trying to regain pieces of her life, but as well working at this like corrupt um, sheriff's office.
Right.
It's interesting stuff, and some beautiful cinematography by David Gallego. Um, it's not a film that is gonna like I feel that is going to resonate in my top 10 for 2024, but it is a very solid film that I don't think should get lost in the mix of being a Netflix movie. I think it's better than that. I think Netflix is just the distributor, just the avenue in which we're getting it. It's not a made for Netflix movie. All right, let's head to some television. So for some quick beats here, the second season of this is out. The Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power.
Epic drama set thousands of years before the events of J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings follows an ensemble cast of characters, both familiar and new, as they confront the long feared reemergence of evil to Middle Earth. Created by Patrick McKay and John D. Payne, available on Prime Video.
So if you're ever wondering where all the cash is going when you pay for your Prime memberships and all that stuff, is mostly going to this series, and you can tell just watching any of the episodes for 5 minutes, you can see that this show costs a lot of money. This is why Wheel of Time is not doesn't have that high of a budget. This is why they can only make 2 seasons of Carnival Row. Like there's, you know, they've hedged their bets behind Lord of the Rings, and I don't know. There's a lot of Tolkien truists or who almost get lumped in the same like Star Wars negativity bucket and who
Right.
love to cast shade at this story, but I think it's done with enough reverence to make an interesting story that predates everything. We have a young Galadriel played by Morfydd Clark, who for me is always like Saint Maud is like a ground shaker, and I anytime I see her on, I'll always think of that. But you saw her recently in the Matt Smith movie, Starvacre.
Yes.
She was in that recently, and she's just a very interesting actor that always knows her assignment. In my opinion, like I really like her. And I mean, the show is bringing some big characters into season 2 with Tom Bombadil, who is a big character out of the Fellowship of the Ring, who is basically completely cut out of the Peter Jackson movies, and big character actors because Kieran Hinds joins in a massively pivotal role. And I don't know, I like fantasy. I've loved Lord of the Rings as and The Hobbit as books when I was a kid, and I was so into the movies when they played, and I'm enjoying this series as well. Like it feels like epic filmmaking, but in television form, and I'm kind of all about that. All right, let's move on to another streaming service for something I'm a little bit of a geek for. This is Chaos.
A modern day contemporary retelling of Greek mythology, starring Jeff Goldblum, Janet McTeer, Cliff Curtis, David Thewlis, Killian Scott, Stephen Delane, Aurora Perrineau, Missia Butler, Layla Farzad, Nabhan Rizwan, Raki Aola, and Stanley Townsend. Created by Charlie Cobble, available on Netflix.
So I'm a sucker for Greek mythology. I always kind of have been since like junior high. I did like a book report on Greek mythology, and I just like went down the textbook rabbit hole on it. Like I just really kind of love that stuff. So taking that and putting it into the smartphone and cell phone world that we are now, but still having a bit of fantasy to it as well, I find is really, really interesting. It's like a flighty Succession, but with Zeus as at the head of it.
Right.
And so Zeus is played by Jeff Goldblum, who is vain, all the worst things of a megalomaniac, but also a god at the same time. So this show it's cheeky in ways. It goes into the debauchery in very interesting ways that I really like. And to think that it was almost Hugh Grant instead of Jeff Goldblum, which I think would have given the show a less neurotic flavor. Like I know
Mhm.
they both are actors that can channel neuroses, but Jeff Goldblum does it in just a different way that
Yeah.
I think really, really works for the show. Janet McTeer, I really like. She plays Hera in this. A lot of Netflix watchers would know her from Ozark. She played Helen on Ozark, and just a very interesting character on that one. And I really like how formidable she is as an actress. The actor that plays Prometheus in this one, yeah, Stephen Delane. Stephen Delane, who is most recently for people in Game of Thrones. He plays Prometheus, and the way that it feels that Zeus confides in him, he's able to blip him to the Mount Olympus and then back again because Prometheus is hanging on a cliff, having his guts chewed out
Mhm.
by buzzards. So I find that really, really fascinating as well. But the wild card in this is all the human element to it. So I'm digging it so far. I'm wondering if it's going to get a season 2 pickup because it looks expensive. Uh, let's. Have you checked this one out at all or heard of it?
I've scrolled past it. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. I'm also into Greek mythology, not as much as my partner, but I mean, like, our son is named Midas, so
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah, so I figured one of you were going to be into it. I say check it out. I think it's interesting, and I like I like the modern angle that they're pushing on it. I think it has legs for sure. A quick one because I don't want Prime Video to get extra money from you if they don't have to. But this is Bel Air.
Follows the journey of a street smart teenager whose life is forever transformed when he moves from the streets of West Philadelphia to live with his rich aunt, uncle, and cousins in Belar. Belar?
Pilar, West
Uh,
Philadelphia, born and raised on the playgrounds where I spent most of my days. Yeah. Yeah, this is
you
Fresh
guys know
Prince
what
of
it
Bel
is.
Air. Yeah, this is Fresh Prince of Bel Air. This is a dramatized version of it. They're now entering season 3 of this show. I thought this was just an easy punchline setup. Like, just like, why do we need this show? It seems so dumb, but it actually works. Again, we're bringing it up to modern times. It doesn't take place in the 90s, and we have Jabari Banks playing Will, the main character, who looks a lot like a very young Will Smith. And he's on the run from Philadelphia, not because he got in a little fight on the basketball court, is because he basically got involved in the middle of gang business on a basketball court, and now he has to run for his life. So that's what puts him into Beverly Hills and puts him into the house of Uncle Phil and family, and a really really well cast Aunt Viv, Cassandra Freeman, is a tough and formidable woman and definitely has the atmosphere to play this kind of character. I mean, because I kind of grew up on Beverly, sorry, on Fresh Prince of Bel Air. Like I think I've seen every episode by now, and I always have a soft spot for that show. And then Uncle Phil is played by an actor named Adrian Holmes, who's a British actor, but via Canada through Vancouver, Toronto, and stuff. He's been basically a Canadian actor for a long time, so it's really cool to see him pop up in the show. And I don't know, the dramatic repositioning of the plot works to me, and it makes an interesting episode. It makes me want to watch each episode after and kind of binge it. The only bad thing is it's on Stack TV, and it's just another way for Prime Video to just have you within their wheelhouse to subscribe to something else within their wheelhouse. And I'm always praising MGM Plus and their ever growing network of shows, but I don't know, enough's becoming enough. I was really annoyed that I had to subscribe to Stack so I could watch this Bel Air. So yeah, that's my gripe for the episode. A quick one. I watched Rami Youssef's More Feelings, which was produced by HBO and is not on Crave anymore. I had to basically buy it on Apple TV to find it. Um, and I really like Rami Youssef. I love his show, Rami. I think it's one of those must see shows of the last 5-10 years, especially when we're talking about bridging the gap between cultures while living in North America, and understanding other cultures that are very hot button right now, like Muslims. And Rami Youssef is a Muslim that actually brings that to his comedy, because this special in itself is very relevant because he does talk about October 7th and everything that came from that, and as well as being like irreverently funny in a way that doesn't feel like bad. He's just talking truths, and it makes a lot of sense. So I think Rami Youssef is just kind of a guy on the rise. He did a really great performance in Poor Things towards the end of last year.
Yeah.
And through that, Yorgos convinced him to make his own feature film, which is what he's working on right now.
Okay.
So I'm like, I think he's just a name that we're going to hear a lot more of. So finding his stand up specials is, I think, worth the currency of pop culture in the future. Well, what did I add to the library this week? That's right. New to the library, I got some 4Ks that I'm really excited about. One of them, we just talked about Bel Air, but I brought in Focus on 4K, which is brand new. Will Smith and Margot Robbie in a total grifter con film that largely works. This is slightly above mid, in my personal opinion. I saw it in theaters. I enjoyed it. I did recognize it could have been better, but Margot Robbie is the reason to watch the show. She is absolutely incredible. There is a few cool special features on it, like Masters of Misdirection, the players in a con, Will Smith, Gentleman Thief, and Margot Robbie stealing hearts, which she very much does. And then there is deleted scenes and an alternate opening as well. Also, I got Game Night 4K. This is a mystery comedy that was better than I initially thought it was going to be going in. I felt like at the time this came out, which is like 2016 era, that I was a little burnt out on some of these comedies, and it caused me to skip some that I ended up liking in the end, like Tag. But the cast in this one's really good. It's led by Jason Bateman, and it's got Rachel McAdams, Billy Magnuson, Sharon Horrigan, Kyle Chandler, and a movie stealing performance from Jesse Plemons, who it's kind of a consistency with him. If Jesse Plemons is in it, he's gonna steal it at some point. Like it's just gonna happen. But the special features on it has an unforgettable evening making game night and a gag reel. And I am a sucker for a gag reel or a blooper reel. If you want to see a good blooper reel, watch last week's episode at the very end. It's a great blooper reel, if I say so myself. And then lastly on the shelf this week is Richard Pryor Live on the Sunset Strip 4K. I will bring this one up in the future because it's not quite out yet. It was delayed a little bit to come to 4K, but it'll be out on September 10th. And it's one of the greatest stand-up specials of all time, but it still leads me to think stand-ups on 4K. Why? Do we need high definition for
Uh,
stand-up?
does it make it funnier?
Yeah, the sound is so precise that it's just funnier in 4K. I don't know. I'm a little late to finishing this up, but I did finish this up something recently. Now that it's over, I finally finished my Blu-ray of Yellow Jackets, so I can stop avoiding spoilers.
A wildly talented girls' high school soccer team become the unlucky survivors of a plane crash deep in the Canadian wilderness.
So I didn't include all of the cast and everything. This was kind of a late addition to it all. Do you watch Yellow Jackets at all?
I don't think I'm familiar with this.
Okay, this is basically, yeah, soccer team crashes and they have to survive, and it goes to probably where you think it would go to.
Cannibalism?
Actually, yes. There you go. So you figured it out. But it's a great mix because it's telling the story of these girls when they crash and the survival and everything, but then also follows a handful of them as adults in modern time because there's that original crash storyline happens in the mid 90s or
Okay.
later 90s. And then the modern tales now, right? So great casting between the young actresses and the older actresses. One of the actresses is Jessica Savoy Brown. She was in the most recent Scream trilogy. So she's one of the main girls. Liv Houston's the main girl in it, and a Canadian actress named Sophia Nalais. And the older version of her is Melanie Linsky. Then there's Samantha Hanratty, and then the older version of her is Christina Ricci. Like the older cast is insanely good because you also have Juliette Lewis in there. Lauren Ambrose shows up in season 2, who is the older version of Liv Houston's character. And I will say season 2 is a step down from season 1. The heightened mystery and everything, the establishment is so good in season 1 that it's a high bar to clear, and I get it. But guest stars is where, or new cast members is where it excels. So yeah, you bring Lauren Ambrose, and I'm a huge 6 Feet Under fan, so that's a win for me. And then you bring in Elijah Wood, who just brightens anything. In my opinion, you bring Elijah Wood to anything, I am so hooked and on board. I think where it went was interesting. I think they're meandering a little bit, so I'm worried and wondering what season 3 is going to be all about. But they just added Joel McHale in a secretive role for season 3, and I believe, like the other 2 seasons, it will be filmed in Vancouver and the surrounding areas. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm on board for season 3. I'm not dulled, but I will say season 2 was not as good. But my fandom's still there for sure. I started another movie journey, so let's go into that quickly. Yes, I know. And it's another Warner Brothers led one. Because they gave me a 4K box set. So I had to start with part 1. I hadn't seen in a long time. This is Ocean's 11.
Danny Ocean, a gangster, rounds up a gang of associates to stage a sophisticated and elaborate casino heist, which involves robbing 3 Las Vegas casinos simultaneously during a popular boxing event. Starring George Clooney, Matt Damon, Andy Garcia, Brad Pitt, Julia Roberts, Casey Affleck, Scott Kahn, Elliot Gould, Bernie Mac and Carl Reiner, directed by Steven Soderbergh.
And this is like one of Steven Soderbergh's like crowning achievements. We get to actually see a Soderbergh movie at the festival this year because he did Presence, which is a ghost film from the perspective of the ghost.
Yes.
So what does that mean? I don't know. I'm interested, but I believe he does the cinematography for Presence, as well as he did the cinematography all himself for Ocean's 11 as well. It's something that I didn't know because they credit it to Peter Andrews, but Peter Andrews is a pseudonym for Steven Soderbergh. He just did it for Directors Guild reasons, I believe. And this is heist movie gold. This is one of the top films when it comes to making a heist film. It's so fun. The script is so great. The comedy is there. The tension is there. The nail biting moments are there. And it's all about big, big performances to me. George Clooney is the anchor for it all. Danny Ocean is the reason this movie is happening, and he knows that and he commands it. And then Brad Pitt is the coolest member on the screen at all times. Rusty is probably one of my favorite film characters of all time, and it's just that he just exudes that the Brat Pack feel in which this all comes from is really permeates through these two actors. And I mean, they're superstars for a reason, and Ocean's 11 is definitely a big reason. I will say I'm not as excited to head into 12. 12 is not my favorite of these three movies. I have a lot of issues with it. I'm wondering if time heals all wounds and I can get past some of the things that I don't like in this movie. I know what I can rely on, and it's Brad Pitt being cool, and he's got like the buzz cut look for Ocean's 12, and it's really great. And Matt Damon just gets better as the series goes on. I think these movies are amazing, even with the gripes that I have in the middle section of it. And it's a movie journey that I'm so excited to keep going on. So expect this one to come back soon. Just a couple of reminders before we go out. This week's reminders, both ones that Chloe and I have both seen. The first one is the 4K and Blu-ray of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is now out. This has a cut of the film that is pre effects. Wes Ball wanted to continue to include this, and it's all the actors working. It's just in the gray suits with the rigs and everything, so you get to see the actual actors' performances,
That's
which
awesome.
I think that's really interesting, right? I
Yeah.
don't think I've ever seen anything approached like that before to show us something so raw.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
it gives me incentive to want to buy it just so I can see this cut
Yeah.
of the film. And I mean, it's a lengthy cut to get into too, because that movie is 2.5 hours long, right? But I'm willing to do it again to see that cut for sure. I reviewed it on May 17th and gave it a glowing review, and then Chloe reviewed it on July 19th episode and gave it also a glowing review as well. So the other one that's out this week is The Watchers. This is Ishana Shyamalan's debut film. I thought it felt like a really expensive student film. And like Chloe picked apart the front room at the beginning of the episode, I was pulling this film apart as I was watching it. I reviewed it on the June 14th episode of the show. Did you ever bring your review of the movie to the show once you'd done it?
I
Maybe just
don't
quickly.
think yeah, it
Maybe,
might like, it might have been really quick, and I probably all I said was it's bad. And I think
yeah.
I just reiterated what you said because that's exactly how the film came across, how it looks like
Yeah.
a student-made film with too much money.
And it makes you mad at nepotism.
Yep.
And that is it for the reminders. But so what's going to go on next week? Right, a taste of next week, a sequel 36 years in the making. Beetlejuice is the movie of the week. Um, I don't know. They're saying good things about it right now. I'm not seeing a lot of detracting from this movie.
I've heard that bad things were being said. I haven't seen exactly what those things
Okay.
are. Actually, hold on. I actually have something that pertains to this.
That cat is staring into my soul.
So, I went grocery shopping, as
Hmm.
people do,
Yeah,
and
it's a thing.
I found this
What? It's a Beetlejuice Fanta. What's the flavor?
haunted apple. It tastes like a caramel apple. It's not great.
Oh. But the marketing got you to buy it.
It did. And there's a O'Hara one as well, and there's a Winona Ryder one.
No Jenny Ortega. She's not established
Or
enough to get
wait,
her own.
okay, no, sorry, it was Jenna Ortega. Yeah.
The woman of the moment right now, Jenna
She
Ortega.
really is, and I don't necessarily have a problem with it. It's
I
just
don't either.
every time now that they need like an emo or goth girl character, it's her. It's her.
I know. I was annoyed for a slight second when they're like, "Oh, the when I saw a quick glimpse of the Sabrina Carpenter video, and then I actually
Yeah.
watched the Sabrina Carpenter video for what is it called? Taste. And I'm like, this is actually really good. I can't hate it. I really, really like it. I think it's fun. It's like Death Becomes Her, like them just like having this blood feud, and I think it's really great. The video is fantastic. And it continues the win streak. I think I wish that they hadn't fucked up Scream so badly. I wish that I think the big reason is they wouldn't back Melissa Barrera, and I think that's shitty of them. And the fact that they opted to not pay Nev Campbell what she was worth on the last film, so she bowed out.
Oh.
So learn from your mistakes, Paramount. So yeah, Beetlejuice is the movie next week. That brings this episode to a close. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Letterbox, and Threads at the Stevel Dead.
You can find me on Letterboxd at HoneyBunChloe.
You can find every episode of this show at stevestebbing.ca. You can also search the name Steve Stebbing on YouTube and find this channel. Please rate, like, and subscribe. And we're also on shiftheads.ca and on the Facebook group where there are 4,000 members right now. And you can also hear me every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on the iHeartRadio network, News 1010. And the show is Shane Hewitt and the Night Shift. Also, Tremble the Horror Podcast. Our latest episodes are Phantom of the Mall, Eric's Revenge, and Popcorn. Just weird ass movies, just weird ass movies. And also I'm on After the Credits, and this episode was on Strange Darling, a movie that is already a darling to this show. So it's just me giving more love to it, all deserved love. And I still keep nudging at the director and Kyle Gallner to like notice us. We're praising your movie a lot. Please notice us and please retweet from your glorious platform. But yeah, that is it. We've emptied out our list, so we got to fill it up again. Until then, bye bye.